Sometimes a pearl will be chucked at your feet, and you've got to reach down and pick it up. And one of the, me as well. And I've got a comment here from a individual that calls themselves Rock Salt. #9. I get it. I can see you. And he says, a new channel. I lost a lot of saved content and lost channel for whatever reason. For now, there is nothing there to see. A sort of metaphor for me. For now. A new channel indeed. The only reason I am going to get this going is to do a verse from Proverbs that will not leave me alone. Proverbs 19:24. The slothful hideth his hand in his bosom. It grieveth him to bring it back to his mouth. Last week I got the sudden urge to be next to some water. I stopped what I was doing and headed out to a spot along Lake Erie or Erie. I'm aware it's in the States. I've watched boats sail there. A beautiful sunny day, nice breeze, waves and seagulls to hear. I lay down on the stones of the beach and put my head against a log. The very second I closed my eyes, there was a bright flash which overpowered the external sun, and a geometric shape was revealed to me. My point: things can be revealed even in the brightest sunshine. I smiled and said thank you, and went for a wade. Now, to the blind, there's not a lot in that comment, but there is an awful lot in that comment. That's why I'm making this video. My reply was regarding the shape. Was it a dodecahedron, the shape? Think about the Platonic solids. Each solid represents a sense. There's 5 solids. All the solids fit in together. All the solids, all the 5 Platonic solids, the 5 senses, when you turn them inwards, they become one. And they meld into a dodecahedron. Right. So, Proverbs, King James Version. Not because it's better than any of the other ones. It's just because this is the one that we was furnished with, which is corrupt. But if I was to use a Catholic version or the new international version, there are other corruptions. Like it says in the text, the King James, it says the slothful hideth his hand in his bosom. Whereas in the new international versions or various other versions, it says the sluggard keeps his hand in his dish. It grieves him to bring it back to his mouth. So bosom and dish are not the same things. So, and a lot can be lost in translation, which is what's happened. Some of the corruptions are due to poor translation. One of them is Nephilim. It means those that have lowered themselves, those that have bowed down. It doesn't mean giant. Oh, anyway. So, through desire, a man, an intellect, having separated himself from the spirit, consciousness, seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. In other words, he's looking for wisdom and mingles with it. A fool hath no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. When the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt, with ignominy reproach. In other words, the ignorant, the profane, stupefied, stultified. And this is where I sound toxic. I got called toxic yesterday. Yeah, somebody who is, in a position of ignorance would deem me or think of me as toxic. And they wouldn't listen to anything I'd said. And thus they reinforce their own ignorance due to their own foolish pride. That's the Apostle Paul, by the way. The Antichrist. The ego. The words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. It is not good to accept the person of the wicked, to overthrow the righteous in judgment. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes. In other words, they need a good whipping. The words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the belly. So somebody that runs around pointing the finger, you're toxic, you're a gatekeeper, or you're a shill. He also that is slothful in his work is brother to him that is a great waster. Slothful in your work. It's not talking about your job. It's talking about your work, your inner engineering. Are you meditating? Are you seeking earnestly within for the light? Or are you slothful? So the Apostle Paul is a great waster. So it says here, he also that is slothful in his work is brother to him that is a great waster. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. Right, let's change that. It's one of the corruptions. The name of Yah or Yahweh is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe. The tower, the kundalini, the rising of the energy, upright. Yeah. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, and as on a high wall in his own conceit. Because a rich man thinks he's done well for himself. Look at my success. Look at my excess. Look at all my things, all of my possessions. Well, those possessions possess him. It owns him. Before destruction, the heart of man is haughty, and before honour is humility. I went through that process. Got whipped into shape. He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. Listen first, chew the cud, then answer. People all too often are formulating an answer before the other participant has finished speaking. Therefore, you fail to listen. And all too often as well, it's the emotions that lead the mind. The spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity, but a wounded spirit who can bear? Jesus said, blessed are those that are poor in spirit. So those people that are poor in spirit, they've been wounded. Those are the ones that can hear. But they have to go within to hear. Right. The heart of the prudent getteth knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeketh knowledge. So you'll hear something and you'll understand it because you're prudent, and then you'll respond to the simple instructions. A man's gift maketh room for him, and bringeth him before great men. A man's gift, so the intellect, meditation, you are tithing, you are offering, you are gifting your ego to make room for him, the Spirit, and bringeth him before great men. Great men, that's men of renown. People like Hermes thrice majestic, Thoth, all those old stories, and then you'll understand their wisdom. So then you are having a one-to-one audience. So you'll read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and when you have this wisdom, you'll read it and you'll understand it. So you are in an audience with kings. He that is first in his own cause seemeth just, but his neighbour cometh and searcheth him. In other words, if you think you're the be-all and end-all, okay, like the leader, that you're so smart, then your spirit will come in and question you. Okay, and then that tower that you've built will fall down. The lot causeth contentions to cease, and parteth between the mighty. The lot causes contentions to cease, and parteth between the mighty. Well, that's the division. When highest consciousness comes in, there's a separation where you can watch your younger brother and you can observe his folly, but without judging him. And because you're observing him, he'll change his attitude. Now, your younger brother is your ego, of course, and the watcher is the spirit, which is your consciousness. So you become consciously aware of how rampant and how wild the ego is, not to mention puffed up. A brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city, and their contentions are like the bars of a castle. If you've pissed your brother off, it's difficult to repair. But your brother is your higher consciousness. It's not your physical brother. This is all about internal. So apply this to yourselves. And their contentions are like the bars of a castle. In other words, you can't get out of it. You're behind the bars. You're locked down. You're locked in with it. There's nowhere to run away. There's nowhere to run to. You run from yourself. A man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled. In other words, speaking the truth. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Right, basically, this is what Jesus said. If you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword. So if you're a politician, a judge, a lawyer, a leader, a general, and you're leading others, using your tongue to lead them astray, you will eat the fruit thereof. In other words, you will reap what you have sown. If you've sown good, you'll reap good. If you've sown evil, whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favour of Yahweh. So the wife, it's not about girls. It's not. Your wife It's the biblical marriage. When the groom meets the bride. In other words, the enlightened mind becomes one with the subconscious. Sleeping Beauty, she wakes up. The 7 dwarfs, the 7 chakras. And then all wisdom is given to you. And the bride is also the Kundalini. It's the divine feminine, the Holy Spirit, the nurturer, the mother, the comforter. The poor refuseth entreaties, but the rich answereth roughly. In other words, the poor say, why are we being fucked over by this system? Why do you continually piss up our fucking backs and tell us it's raining, you rich, arrogant, hypocritical fucks? And the rich answereth roughly, that's your lot. Get back to work. It's the law. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. So let's do that one again. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. I don't have any friends. I wonder why. Look. Social graces, social etiquettes. You've got to jump through all those hoops. I can't be arsed. I can't be bothered with any of that. It's just duller than dishwater. And if I had friends, they'd all get upset with me and pissed off because I'm not playing their game. So it's easier just not to have anyway. I've got people that I'm talk to, acquaintances, people I know. That's fine. But I've got a really good friend, and he sticks really close to me. I'll carry on. In Proverbs 19 now. Oh. I started on Proverbs 18 actually, because I like to go left and right, just to give it a bit of context. Better is the poor that walketh in his integrity, than he that is perverse in his lips and is a fool. In other words, to have not much, but be able to walk upright and maintain your own individual integrity, than those that speak foolishness. And politicians, religious leaders, those kind of people. They don't know their ass from their fucking elbows. Also, that the soul be without knowledge, it is not good. And he that hasteth with his feet sinneth. Oh, let me read that one again. Pay attention, children. Also, that the soul be without knowledge, it is not good. And he that hasteth with his feet sinneth. In other words, learn to walk before you can run. Because you need knowledge first, and then you can respond. But if you're doing things out of order, you're going to miss the mark. That's what sinneth means. Sin means missing the mark. It literally means missing the mark. That's the mark, the pineal gland, the all-seeing eye, illumination. Okay, so if you are lacking simple knowledge and you're going too quickly, you'll miss the mark. Because you need to understand that it takes time for the body to reach a state of equity, homeostasis, balance. And if that hasn't been reached, then you are still a worker of inequity. And that will cause you to sin, to miss the mark. Very important. The foolishness of a man perverteth his way, and his heart fretteth against Yahweh, or the Lord. There is no Lord. Now, the foolishness of a man perverts his way because he hasn't had instruction. So it makes his way perverted. He gets it wrong. Not that he's a pervert, it's just wrong. If I tell you to go down the road 200 yards and then go left, and you go down the roads 100 yards and go right, then you've perverted my instructions. You see, that's why these simple knowledge. That's why I encourage people to read the book. But don't understand it. The knowledge comes later. Delayed gratification. Let the Spirit do the work, not you. That's what the Apostle Paul did. He thinks he's doing the work. You can't. You're not consciousness. It's the mind that needs to be lifted by consciousness. And this is what the Apostle Paul negates. Do not do the work of the Malak. The Malak is the angels. Consciousness. Wealth maketh... sorry, hang on. And his heart frets against the Lord. Because he's not making any progress. Oh, Lord, help me. Wealth maketh many friends, but the poor is separated from his neighbour. Wealth maketh many friends. Yeah, because when you've got money, everyone wants to know you. But the poor is separated from his neighbour. Your neighbour. So your neighbour is the ego, and you're being separated from it. Jesus says, I come to bring division. Get it? A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. James Brockhurst. Pay attention. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. He was a liar from the beginning. The beginning is Genesis. In Hebrew, it's Barashit. It means in the beginning, Genesis. So when the serpent goes into the Garden of Eden, that's the Kundalini. That's the beginning. And that's when you realize that your ego has been a liar from the beginning. And he shall not go unpunished. And he'll be cast off. Ego death. Many will entreat the favour of the prince, and every man is a friend to him that giveth gifts. So everyone wants the favours of the prince. And every man is a friend to him that giveth gifts. All the brethren of the poor do hate him. How much more do his friends go far from him? He pursueth them with words, that yet they are wanting to him. Worshipping in vain. He that getteth wisdom loveth his own soul. He that keepeth understanding shall find good. So wisdom is given to you by the Kundalini. Okay? The divine feminine. Sophia. Sophie. Philosophy. Philo means love. Sophie means wisdom. The love of wisdom. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall perish. Tell the truth. But how can you tell the truth if you haven't experienced it? That's the quandary. That's the mystery. In the book of Hosea, he says, chapter 4, verse 6, it's something like, your people, he's talking to Yahweh, your people are destroyed through a lack of simple knowledge. They perish. Delight is not seemly for a fool, much less for a servant to have rule over princes. Yeah, the Apostle Paul talked about principalities. And Jesus said somewhere, I think in the scriptures, he said, why do you call me the Prince of Peace? I don't come to bring peace. I come to bring division. Words to that effect. The discretion of a man defers his anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression. It doesn't mean ignore it. It means don't let it in. You can still respond to it, but you're not letting an external emotional output become, or you're not letting it affect your emotions inside. You're keeping that Philistine stuff outside. In other words, you're standing your ground. You're not being drawn in. The king's wrath is as the roaring of a lion, but his favour is as dew upon the grass. And that's talking about the sacred secretion. And the roaring of a lion is when you do finally see your ass and you say, enough. It means enough. A foolish son is the calamity of his father. There's two fathers in the Bible. Satan, evil, and good, the father. One's darkness, one's light. One's, darkness is ignorance of spirit. Spirit is light. And the contentions of a wife are a continual dropping. The wife is the emotions. If you're overly emotional all the time, it's going to lower you. House and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from Yahweh. Right, a house, it's what you live in, the kingdom. And the riches are the wisdoms, the understandings. And a prudent wife is your emotions, the subconscious that influences Adam, your enlightened mind. She'll influence you in a way that serves you. Right. Slothfulness casteth into a deep sleep, and an idle soul shall suffer hunger. Oh, fuck me. You've only got to look outside to see that. Everyone's getting that experimental vaccine because of a common cold, because they're in a deep sleep, unable to think for themselves. So because they can't think for themselves, somebody else has to do their bidding, and they follow that. He that keepeth the commandment keepeth his own soul, but he that despiseth his ways shall die. Well, the corruption there is a commandment. A lord will command you, but a loving father will instruct you. And he that keepeth the instructions keeps his own soul. Now, your own soul is your individual story, your individuality. But he that despiseth his ways shall die. He that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto Yahweh, and that which he hath given will he pay him again. Same thing happened in the book of Job. Job had everything, and then he lost everything, but got it back double. So, he that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto Yahweh. So, in other words, you recognize that, like I did, that my consciousness was lowly and little. So I started to follow the instructions that were given to me in my consciousness, and then my mind was illuminated and raised. Right, chasten thy son while there is hope, and let not thy soul spare for his crying. In other words, whilst there's hope, in other words, while you have the opportunity to do something, do it now. Don't wait for the shit to hit the fan to start trying to do it. It is ramping up out there, have you noticed? A man of great wrath shall suffer punishment. For if thou deliver him, yet thou must do it again. A man of great wrath shall suffer punishment. Yeah, okay. An angry ego shall suffer punishment. Oh yeah. For me, on my journey, it was very frustrating, very angry, trying to figure it out. Who's the Apostle Paul? Who's Jesus? What's the New Testament? What's the Old Testament? Trying to get my head around all that garbage. Makes you very angry. And the punishment is death. It's ego death. Nothing to be afraid of. Remember? Because on that day you shall surely die. Did he really say that? If you eat from the tree of knowledge, that you will surely die, because God knows that when you eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you will be like him as gods. And of course Jesus said, you are God, or you are gods. So a man of great wrath shall suffer punishment. For if thou deliver him, you deliver the sacred secretion. And then you must do it again, because the disciples were talking to Jesus, and they said, how will the end days be? And Jesus asked them, well, why are you asking me about the end? Do you know the beginning? That you should know the end? Well, the beginning is the book of Genesis. It's the Kundalini rising up. That's sacred secretion. So what's the ending? Do it again. Raise it up again. Get it? Hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in thy latter end. So refer to the verse I just said. There are many devices in a man's heart, nevertheless the counsel of Yahweh that shall stand. In other words, you'll want to do this, you'll want to do that, your mind will say this, your mind will say that. It's not about that. It's not about the mind. It's higher counsel. And how do you receive that? You meditate. And then that meditation allows the temple to be built in silence. That temple incident is called New Jerusalem. It's here. It's not in that dusty shithole called Israel. The desire of a man is his kindness, and a poor man is better than a liar. Jesus said, "Be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove." And the serpent is the kundalini, and the dove is the limbic system, the emotions. Be kind. Love your neighbour as you love yourself. Your neighbour's your ego. Yourself is your consciousness. Love yourself. And the Apostle Paul critiqued this. He said, they all think with one mind and they become lovers of self. One mind, the subconscious and the ego, or the enlightened ego, become one. They all think with one mind instead of having two minds. And a poor man is better than a liar. The fear of the Lord, the fear of Yahweh tendeth to life. In the ancient Torah scriptures, it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says, the reverence of Yahweh tendeth to life. And he that hath it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited by evil. And evil is darkness, ignorance, no contact with the spirit, no wisdom. A slothful man hideth his hand in his bosom, and will not so much as bring it to his mouth again. Have you seen masons? They do that hand inside. Oh dear, it's salad cream. They put their hand inside their jacket. Have you seen that? Or the politicians and royalty, they put their hand inside their jacket in the bosom. Perhaps those people should bring their hand to their mouth and stop telling lies. Smite a scorner, and the simple will be aware, and reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. What does that mean? Well, if you know the truth, and you've experienced it within, if a scorner is giving you a rough time, give him a fucking rough ride. Tell him he's full of shit and explain why, and speak with authority. And then the poor, or the simple meaning they don't have the knowledge yet, will watch and go, bloody hell, this guy knows what he's on about. And one that has understanding, reprove him. In other words, if they're doing something wrong, let them know. And then he will understand knowledge. Because when you're letting him know that you're doing that wrong, you should be doing this. Oh shit, yeah. So then he corrects it, and then he has the experience, then he has knowledge. Then he really knows what he needs to do. He that wasteth his father and chasteth away his brother is a son that causeth shame and bringeth reproach. So he that wasteth his father, in other words, he that rejects the father, he that doesn't want to know the spirit, and he that chases away his mother, the Apostle Paul said that the woman, when in church, should have nothing to say, and afterwards she should ask her husband, and he will explain things to you. Now, the woman in the church is the emotions, and The Apostle Paul was telling people to shut the emotions down and use logic and rationale to instruct the woman. But that's called stoicism, being a stoic, because emotions serve a purpose. Why would you have them if you weren't allowed to use them? The thing is, though, with the emotions, if they are running rampant, there's things called empaths, and these peoples are sadly, sadly, these people are very emphatic, but they become victims of their own emotions because they want to help. So those that are poor or destitute, they do things to help them, and they become exhausted. And that's not good, because they're giving away their energy to people that won't help themselves. Nobody's coming to save you, people. You're it. So if you have emotions, especially when you're meditating, if those emotions come, don't get in the way. Don't chase them away. Let them go through you. Let it clear out. So it is a son that causeth shame and bringeth reproach. It's not right. Let the body do what it knows how to do. The body's conscious. It's far smarter than the mind. So when you're meditating, the mind's out the way, and that energy will start shifting. And if your mind jumps back in because it doesn't want to experience sadness or whatever emotion the body's trying to shift, emotion, energy in motion, it's got to move it. It's got to clear those blockages. If it doesn't, the chakras, the 7 seals of the book of Revelation, they don't get the spinning start they need. Was it Ezekiel that saw the spinning wheels? That's the chakras. Cease, my son, to hear the instruction that causeth to err from the words of knowledge. No? Cease, stop, pause. In the Old Testament it says, be still and know I am God. Meditation. So cease, my son, to hear instruction that causeth to err from the words of knowledge, which is the Torah. Torah means the instructions for living. It's your DNA. It is the scroll that Daniel was given, and it's not to be opened until the appointed time. That's now, folks. An ungodly witness scorneth judgment, and the mouth of the wicked devoureth iniquity. So an ungodly witness, in other words, somebody who is speaking about higher consciousness but has never experienced it. So a false witness, the Apostle Paul. And the mouth of the wicked devoureth inequity. In other words, they eat inequity because they don't chew the cud. Inequity is imbalance. That if you're imbalanced within because you don't have higher consciousness, anything that's given to you, anything that you're trying to consider will be unbalanced. Okay, you won't have a balanced view. Now, a balanced view is between good and evil. A balanced view is to observe 2 opposing things at the same time and to entertain both opposing ideas at the same time and to judge neither. That's called equity, yin-yang. Judgments are prepared for scorners, and stripes for the backs of fools. And that'll do for the time being. Yeah, Proverbs. Proverbs is awesome. Hope you enjoyed that, folks. Bye now.